Hundreds of people took to the streets of Hong Kong today, calling on the Chinese government to recognize the deadly events 20 years ago in Tiananmen Square. This week marks a dark chapter in China's pro-democracy movement. In 1989, students occupying Tiananmen Square were met with fierce military opposition. It's still not clear how many people died. Today, demonstrators called on the Chinese government to change its official position on the pro-democracy protests. Authorities still classify the event as a counter-revolutionary riot.
For 20 years now in Hong Kong, we have been trying our best to have that verdict reversed. So we will continue to do so until justice is done to these students who gave up their lives for their country.
The 20th anniversary of the bloody Tiananmen Square standoff is on Thursday. Nearly 70% of Hong Kong residents say the violent crackdown was a mistake on China's part. Ross Gearllach is an analyst at the Institute for Conflict Analysis and Resolution at George Mason University. His area of focus is Northern Chinese history and culture, and he joins us now from Washington. We've seen these gatherings in Hong Kong. What are the chances that this is going to be marked at all in China?
Very unlikely. The state of the situation among the Chinese government is such at this point that they're not prepared to acknowledge what happened. They're making steps toward it, but it's likely to be some time before anything changes.
How has China changed at all since then? I mean, a lot of people have made issue of the way that it deals with opponents of the government. Has that changed at all?
They have become slightly more open and slightly more willing to accept other points of view. The important thing in this situation are the official steps that have been taken by the Chinese government. The protests actually began when Hu Yaobang, a former high-ranking member of the party, died. He had been a very strong voice for change within the party and was actually forced out by the ruling clique. When the students turned out to mourn his passing, the protest gradually developed into the democracy movement that prompted the response. A couple of years ago, Hu Yaobang's birthday was actually marked by the Chinese government, and Hu Jintao, the president, was actually the protege of Hu Yaobang, which has given hopes that he would be reconciled with the official Chinese history, and that would be a step toward acknowledging what happened in Tiananmen.
Now, what lessons were learnt during that time, especially on that day? Has the opposition changed the way that it tries to deal with the government, or has the opposition been quashed?
Mostly what's happened is the government has learned how to deal with the opposition. The thing about the protests was that they started as an outcry for democracy, but they eventually became much more. They became an outcry by the people against high levels of inflation and massive amounts of corruption among the Chinese government. And the Chinese government learned from that by taking steps to curb some of the excesses that occur within the government and to spread economic prosperity around, they could keep people happy. Now, the issue is, with the economic situation around the globe lately, how long they can continue to make this deal with their population.
Mm-hmm. Will we ever get an accurate picture of exactly what happened in Tiananmen Square?
It's certainly possible, but it probably won't be for many years, until long after all of the individuals who took part in it have passed on and the Chinese government has acknowledged what occurred.
Ross Gearllach at George Mason University, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.